there's certainly growth where you see a lot of companies transforming from either hosted voice systems or PBXs and others into a cloud platform like Webex calling. So I think over the next few years, with our partners, is that we're seeing this major transformation that's happening, right? Where customers are consolidating their comms into one platform, messaging, voice, etc., to get a lot more productivity and benefit. And with all the innovation that's happening with AI and learning and others, is that in integration with contact centers and so forth, it's really becoming a multi-purpose platform. And by doing that, there's a lot of benefit to be gained, not only for you guys as service providers, but also for your end user customers. But you guys are probably well aware of the shift, and many of you are experiencing it even with the Cisco portfolio, with maybe BroadWorks transforming into Webex, for instance, right, and consolidating into that stack. But there's a tremendous amount of movement here, and I think one is there's an ability to take share from competitors. There's an ability to transform your existing Cisco estates, and obviously add more features, more functionality, and bolster your offering to be more market competitive. Some of the things that we've learned, and this is a good article from Gartner as well, is that getting people from wherever they are, even if it's on a competitive cloud or hosted PBX or wherever it might be, into a cloud platform like Webex could be as much as 30 minutes per user. And candidly, we're engaged with many of you all already on these projects where it's thousands of users and thousands of devices across many locations. Is that, the traditional methods of manual onboarding, are not necessarily conducive to scale, and they're challenging, and they're kind of slowing the adoption. And these are things that obviously we've experienced, but more importantly is you probably live and breathe them every day. And these are some of the headwinds I think we can help manage through. And for us, is that some of the observations we're seeing in the market is that there might be limited device options for those customers that are in that transformation phase, is that they may already have a device that hasn't depreciated, and it may not be available yet for use on the Webex calling platform. So that could be a hindrance. The ability to get from wherever they are today into the Webex calling platform, the cost, the complexity, the disruption may also be a headwind that some customers may look to kick the can down the road a little bit further, even though they may not want to, right? It could just be prohibitive. And kind of when you add a lot of these things up, is that whether it's an upfront investment, it's the services, it's the disruption, to make that jump and make that leap, oftentimes is that that's a strong enough headwind to really delay the project, or to a time where maybe the return on investment isn't so far out. And as a partner, not only of yourselves, but of Cisco, our job is to really help facilitate through that and alleviate a lot of the cost, complexity, and headwinds, not only with the migration, but just in just the experience as a whole. So Phonism as a platform, we're an automation platform. We're designed to secure and manage, migrate and deploy SIP devices at scale. And we work with all the major brands and models and so forth. We have close to 300 today and growing. And really our partnership with Cisco is that providing that integration and through Control Hub is to provide an integrated offering that automates all these tasks for those third-party devices or non-Cisco devices, but do that in an integrated way with Webex calling. And really what we're doing is we're providing a path for those customers that maybe the migration was too much of a heavy lift, or their devices may not be supported. Well, we can provide the path. Or for customers purchasing new devices that maybe those devices are non-Cisco, wouldn't it be nice if they could arrive in a ring-ready state or a zero-touch experience integrated with Webex? Automating the migration procedure from wherever they are today, whether that's BroadWorks or something else, to the platform remotely, in parallel and at scale. Putting this all together with a security wrapper, and what we mean by that is our ability to lock a configuration in that desired state. So therefore it's guaranteed to work. We don't have people down revving to making network attached devices vulnerable from a security perspective, and that we can also manage the firmware and the changes accordingly across the enterprise, across multiple customers in a scalable and automated way, again, with that secure moniker. And this is something that we've co-developed with Cisco through the partner managed device program, and using the partner managed API through Control Hub, is that Phonism is the first and preferred platform to provide that device management experience. This is something we launched at the turn of the year, and we've been getting tremendous amount of inquiry, and obviously with you all is there's a tremendous amount of intrigue about what we can do specific around the non-Cisco estate for devices. So I don't want to get too down in the weeds on proof points and metrics and things like that. We want to showcase that, but certainly a lot of the things that you're doing today in a manual sense can greatly be accelerated by multiple factors. So, time to results, scale, a lot of things happening in bulk or in parallel can really help productivity of your teams and help quality with how we do things with automation and templates. And at a high level, this is basically what the architecture looks like, is that we have the Phonism cloud, as you can see, and we also have the Webex calling cloud on the right-hand side here, is that we're doing all the management traffic. So we're communicating to that device over the network, and we're doing all the things that you would expect us to do. Zero touch provisioning, bulk changes, monitoring, the device health. We're synchronizing all the device information with Control Hub to that user account that owns the device. But all of the remote management capabilities and things are happening out of band. We're not a proxy or in band of calling, right? Which is important. But we're doing all of those management elements and then communicating that back into Control Hub, because Control Hub is that single source of truth. And from a device perspective, there's just minimum platform requirements you're probably well aware of, that the device must support TLS 1.2, and there's certain security parameters in which it needs to support. And if it does, then it's eligible to be certified by us, if not already. And that's something that we post on our website. So, this is the high level topology. Again, as we're doing the deploy, manage, securing, migration of those devices, remote reset, reboot, bulk and parallel operations, with obviously some really good proof points in terms of productivity gains and quality and so forth, and with that integrated experience with Control Hub. So with that, I think this would be a good place for us to kind of flip over to the platform, showcase it to you all, and then certainly keep it collaborative. If you need us to dig in or showcase certain things, let's do that. And then I think our goal is moving forward is that we would have touch points with you all as you kind of go through the lab components and really test drive certain feature function with your current workflows.
Get started, here are a few prerequisites for accessing the Phonism integration with Webex. First, request an active Phonism account from sales@phonism.com, and you're going to request that user to have super admin user access, and you can just send an email to us. Next, for Webex for Cisco requirements, you are going to need to log into Control Hub or Partner Hub as the partner managed device of your partner managed org. And you will need to have the ability to own the organization, create users, create service apps, and have the ability to add integrations into Webex App Hub. And you will need to have Webex calling. Now let's go ahead and log into Partner Hub. I'm going to log into my account area. And what I'll need to do is copy the organization ID and send an email to wholesale PMD admin in order to get the toggle enabled for partner managed devices. So Also, while I'm in here, I will create 3 users, which I already have, and I will need to create a Phonism service app user with read-only access. You can do this by clicking on Manage Users, entering those users manually, or filling out an import CSV, which I've already done here. Now, once we actually connect Phonism and add devices, they will be seen as partner managed devices or partner managed gateways. This is a brand new sandbox environment. Therefore, I don't have any devices at this time. So just double verify the users that I have created. The service app user does not have full admin access. It needs to be read only. The locations are the actual branch offices. So site 1 is going to be represented in Phonism as a tenant, and we'll go over that hierarchy later. So let's go ahead and log into Phonism. If you forget your password, you can always click on the Forgot Password. All right, so once we log in, we're going to see the main account. In this case, this is my Sandbox account. And you do see a dashboard that will reflect the current hierarchy you're at. Now, in Phonism, the way that our hierarchy works is we're a 5-tier hierarchy. And at the top layer, the account layer is going to be, in this example, a service provider. At the service provider level, you have the ability to do a white label and customize the portal to your brand, favicon, and other features. And then next, we have the service provider level, which you can also white label, and that might be your VAR, which can have templates and users and logs. And then next, we have the enterprise level. At the enterprise level, you can have templates, users, logs. For example, you might have Bank of the Valley at the enterprise level. Now, in this example here, we just set a non-connected area where you could provision phones and set them up in the hierarchy you want. And when we integrate with Webex, that will show up a little differently, which we'll talk about when we get there. Now, the next level down is the domain. And at the domain level, you have your templates, your users, your logs, and your phones. That might be a state like California, Florida, other locations. And then at the tenant level, as we were looking in Webex Hub, Control Hub earlier, that represents the actual branch office and the actual location. And you can have tenants like locations like within California, Los Angeles, or Florida, you may have Tampa or Miami, and you can add them, the phones to that location. Let's go ahead and log into the developer portal as our service app user. And once you log in, underneath the avatar, you can click on the drop down to My Webex Apps, and then go ahead and launch Service Apps. And we'll go ahead and create that Service Apps for the specify an icon. And then you can just fill in a little sentence, Phonism Service App for, Webex integration and API tokens. And then put in the email address of the service app user that you created and you're logged in as. And then the quickest way to look for the toggle is to do a search. And I just Control F, search for the Spark dash admin :devices underscore config underscore read. And then we're going to click Save. And then before you proceed, go ahead and copy the client ID. So I'll launch a clipboard and type client ID and then I will copy that client ID as well as the client's secret. Our next step is going to be to request the admin authorization, but first I want to make sure I copy that, put it in my clipboard, copy client's secret. Now, if you happen to misplace client's secret, you can regenerate that later. However, our next steps after requesting authorization will be adding that. So go ahead and click request authorization. And at this time, you're going to go back to Control Hub and log in as the full admin. And in the left side pane, you'll see App, and click on Apps. And then you're going to go to Service Apps, and then you're going to click on the service app we just created, Phonism SA, and enable the toggle to authorize and click Save. Now we will go back into the developer portal, just hit a refresh on the screen, and you will see that we now have another area called authorized orgs. So we have our submitted status. That doesn't actually update, but once you have authorized orgs, you can choose your organization from the drop-down. And you are going to copy the client's secret from your clipboard because you will be using that shortly. So go ahead and select your sandbox and scroll down and paste your client's secret and then say generate tokens. Now I go ahead and put this in order in Phonism. It's actually switched. So here it's going to ask for access tokens. So I type out access token, copy, paste that into my clipboard. And then when I've done that, I also come back and then I type refresh token and hit copy and paste that in my clipboard as well. Now we're going to just validate there isn't anything else to do. And now we have the ability to add these tokens into Phonism. Now, before we do that, we are going to do the integration wizard, which I have put in the US integration link above here. The first step is to check the password login credentials into Phonism. I just do a quick login and then validate. The next step will be pressing on authorize with Webex. You're going to use your system administrator login that you were using in Control Hub. So I usually just log in to make sure that I'm not logged in as another user. And then the next step is to test the actual Webex connection and permissions. Now we're at the data import. The organization number is going to be representative of how many orgs you have. This is a test account. It only has one. So I'm going to go ahead and just click that. My next option is full sync or selective sync. Since it's a test environment, I'm going to go ahead and say full. You can change this later and select them individually under the domains. So the next option is clicking the final button, and it's going to bring us into our dashboard, and we're ready to manage phones. But first, let's go to the Webex integration point where we were at the enterprise level earlier. See, that is now in black, showing the integration level. If we click on that, we will then be able to add our API tokens that we just got from our service. We can just select Edit and go ahead and add our API tokens. So going in order as we copied, I'm just going to copy and paste and populate the client ID, the client secret, the refresh token or access token, whichever one it asks for first. And that's why I put it in order. Access, I believe, then refresh. And then you're going to choose the instance in the geolocation you're at. So currently I'm in the US, so I'm going to select US. If you're in EU, you'll select EU, and you'll have a different integration wizard link to click into. I'm going to go ahead and leave the default for checking in within 24 hours. You can select it. Again, it is configurable and you can change that later. So I'm going to go ahead and select 24 and continue. So that just takes a couple minutes. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the screen. And now what you will see is if I were to go to that integration area, you'll see that it last connected at this time. And this information has been added. All right. Now, once the integration has taken place, the Ring Ready templates have already been auto-applied to the account. So you can see them here. Now, let me go ahead and show you a couple of other things. So when you have devices that are factory reset or brand new devices that have never been connected before, you can set up redirect services or zero touch provisioning so that when those devices are at factory reset and they do phone home to the manufacturer, you can put in your credentials to set up redirect services. I'm only going to set that one up for now. And I'm going to hit save. It says it's successful. Now, in some cases, you just add devices and they will add that profile. However, depends on the vendor. You may have to, with PolyRPS, create that server profile to point to the Phonism provisioning server. So if you click on help and you look at the manufacturer, it will tell you the server address and if there's a path, and also keep in mind any additional information. For example, for Poly, you'll need to make sure the tag SN to UA is enabled. For Yealink, you would just copy this and then you would add HTTP or HTTPS. And then anytime we have a factory reset device or a brand new device, you will go ahead and put in the provisioning information once, it will log in, and then anytime you add the MAC address, it will go ahead and reach out to the RPS server. Other areas that are of importance while we're here, assets. If you have any assets that you want to add, auxiliary files, images, or certificates, you can add those here as well. We do call on certificates occasionally, so if we said add certificate, I could add my PEM file. I don't know where it is at the moment, sorry. But I could add that PEM file and then I can call on that certificate later, which I will have to do probably in a moment. You can also add tags if you have something that you're using repetitively and you want to specify variables so that you can add that tag later. This is where you'll do it. And you'll see that when we look at the templates. Software rules, you can also apply software rules to specify a particular brand. So let me find Yealink. If I wanted to say the particular phone that we're going to be using, I want it to be at this software level. I could specify enforce control. When that phone is added, it will initiate a response that says that next provisioning, it needs to be upgraded to this role, or you can downgrade as well. So let's go ahead and go into our tenants. So if you recall, The location in Control Hub was called Site 1 because it's a sandbox and that's what they named it. So that's where we're going to go. So at this level where we are currently, at this level of the hierarchy, you will see the actual dashboard that is being reflected of where you're at. Currently, we have nothing, right? This is a brand new environment. We don't have any devices in the actual Site 1. We don't have any brands of phones. We don't have any phones doing D2 monitoring where we maybe have TR69 or 369 enabled, where we have the ability to reboot the device, factory reset the device, and in some cases we can manage the device with some network traces, pings, captures, and other things. Here's that parameter we talked about earlier. That's the configurable parameter of when the phone checks in. And devices pending updates would be things like checking in, provisioning, templates, updating configuration or software or firmware upgrades, and unsecured tenants. You have the ability to secure your tenants so that if you wanted to lock down your IP range or your host name or IP whitelist, if somebody's going to try to take a phone and take it home and plug it in, and you don't want them to have that, you would specify a range. If you do have somebody who you want to be able to plug in the phone, you would just need their IP address and you can add it. So there's several different things you can do with tenants. You can also specify provisioning credentials if you want them to log in first and make sure that that provisioning credential is used in order to even add a phone. You can specify that. You can go by protocols. You can say, I only want MTLS protocol connecting to the environment. So there's a lot of things you can do here. Now let's go over to phones. Now we can add a phone individually by just, making up a MAC address. And then we could specify what we want as that phone. I'm going to just say T42S. And then we could specify the software version, and then we can also look at the users. So those users, as you can see, were pulled from Webex. So let's go ahead and give Ambassador Spock here this phone. Now, because this is a fake MAC address, it isn't going to actually provision, but what you will see is that it will come in here, go to a ready state, and even though it's a fake phone, it knows that this phone does have the capability for TR69, so I can enable that as well. Let me just do a phone refresh here and give me one moment, please. Okay, I just did a quick little refresh and you can see that I am connecting and receiving my SIP credentials. So if I come back in here and I look at my devices, I now have a partner managed phone that is in here as status unavailable because it is a fake MAC. But you will see that I did get the SIP credentials. So I'm able to see here is my actual line user ID. Here is my SIP server. And here's my outbound proxy or proxy server, whatever you want to call that. Here is my authorization, which is the SIP username. And I could update the password if I wanted to. I don't need to configure additional lines here. I can actually do that in Phonism. Now, when I go into the actual phone for this particular device, I'm going to go ahead and click edit. Now, what that's going to do is it's already pre-populated that template we looked at earlier. So that auto apply ring ready template has been applied to this phone. And one moment. Okay, So what I did is I just emulated a provisioning of the phone. So I'm just going to refresh this right here. And then I'm going to come in here. Okay. So now the phone is getting the template that was auto applied to it. And what you can see here is there are certain form values that are grayed out because the template had enforced value. And that is when you don't want somebody to change. So you don't want them to change that SIP server. And this is using that friendly tag. So it's pulling that information and adding that to the device info file that the phone is going to get. You can see a couple other things in here that are set in the actual Ring Ready template, so you don't have to go in there and change them. Some things in particular, it requires SRTP, um, the TLS, and other Identitrust certificate, which I still haven't added. I need to add that as well. And then you also have custom config. You can add custom configuration includes and excludes in the configuration file. If they're not being exposed currently in the form, you can always just add it into custom config. All right, so let's see here. Buttons. So we do have a visual button manager where you can specify that right here, or you also have the ability to do your line keys. So if I were adding additional lines, which I would need to add just a couple other things for that, but I'm not going to do that in this demo. I would change this to a shared line or have another line and then add it as a shared line in custom config in the case of Yealink. Others have the ability to specify private or shared, but this particular phone does not. And that's about it. You can add it, like I said, individually. You could do an import, so you could do a bulk import. Unfortunately, I don't believe my bulk import has the right users. I didn't set that up for this demo, but I can show you anyway. So this is the CSV format. You can put that in Excel and save it as CSV. You just need your MAC address, email, first name, last name, and the actual extension. Upon import, you can add anywhere from 3 to thousands at one time. Now, if your account has existing users and phone numbers and you're just adding the devices, it will grab that user and their credentials and do that automatically. If you do not have the user and you want to create the user, it will also do that, but it will then send them an email to activate the actual email, and all of the rest of it gets created, but it's just dependent on them clicking activate for that account. Now you can also import config if you have a configuration file that you like and you want to export it from its existing system. You can then import it in here and it will add that phone. It's going to have that MAC address and the device config and the features. And you can always turn that into an actual template as well. So using this as an example, you will see right here that create template from phone. You can create a template from that phone, and that will go up a level to the domain. And at this point in time, this is now an assignable template. So we have the other template that's an auto apply. If I wanted to make some changes here, let's see, maybe I have particular speed dials I want to specify for emergency response or the manager. I could specify assignable. I could make my change. If I wanted to change the button, for example, and then I could go ahead and, make those changes. I could say, okay, I want this to enforce value. I'm going to call this speed dial, for example, and then you can fill out the rest and then you could save it. Now, once you've done that, now you have an assignable template. So the auto apply is going to come first, then the assignable will kind of stack on top of it. And any custom configuration from the initial one and the assignable will combine and merge. And then that will be added to that particular device that I've assigned it to. Now, in order to assign it, I would go to the phone and I would say specify, and then I could choose if I had enabled my template, then I could choose an assignable template right there, for example. Now you can also take templates and clone them and make them auto apply templates in the hierarchy by clicking the clone button, specifying where you would like to put that. So if I wanted to bring it to, let's say, a higher level, I might want to put it in, let's say, enterprise, and I could call it whatever I wanted. Let's say this was particularly my, let's say, Yealink phone. Just gonna say Yealink T42S. I want to edit this version. I want to keep the config that's in there, and then I could specify that. And let's go to the template. And you can see it auto-saved, but it is in a disabled state. So if I wanted to, I could then say, for example, I only want these phones to get this template, and I want them to auto-assign that template. I just have to remember to go into the Ring Ready template and then unassign, if that's what I wanted to do, the T42S, because I want that one to particularly have all T42Ss at this level will then get that template. Now, if I wanted to choose a only my phone, I would keep the assignable template. So in this case, then I'm just going to uncheck box that. So the auto apply does not apply to that one. Now, in addition to that, we do also have API integration. And if you go to help.phonism.com and look up our API documentation, we have an entire documentation library there for you to peruse. In addition to that, we do low code integration. If you have your own software that you're using in your own program that you're using with your customers or your VARs, and you want to integrate us inside of that so that it looks like it's part of that portal, they don't even understand that we're behind it, we also do that as well. So that's it for my demo. Thanks for your time. If you have any questions, please reach out to us.